Welcome back. I wanted to show you a quick video on an important concept called environmental variables. And I've created a simple server here that we've done before using the HTTP module that comes with Node. And we have a simple server that listens to port 3000. If I run node server.js, we get servers listening to port 3000. However, this is not really realistic. Sometimes we don't want to hardcode what port we are listening to. For example, when we're deploying something through another service, like we will with Heroku, we can't really pick what port we're going to listen to. We need something dynamic so that it can be changed. How can we do that? Well, this concept of environmental variables is the idea that there's variables, just like we have a const a equals 1, const b equals 2, that are variables in this environment. There's an idea of an environmental variable, which is an environment such as here, a computer that this application is running on, or this server is running on. It may have its own variables. And we're able to inject these variables into the specific location in a file. And this isn't just node or server specific. It is with all programming. Everywhere you look, there's going to be environmental variables that are being used. It's a concept. So how can we do this in Node? Well, in Node, we have access to, let's do a console log, process.env. And with process.env, if I run the server, you see that it tells me the environment, such as where I'm running this from, the home, tells us what terminal program I'm running with this with, which is iterm. Getting a lot of information. Let's clear this. With this now, we can set our own variables. If we wanted to set the port, for example, we can say process.env.port, and now change this to process.env.port. And just to make this cleaner, we can just have port equal to process.env.port. So now we can remove the same call. Let's just console log here as well, just to make sure that we see it. If I run node server, I get undefined. But that's because this port number is something that we didn't have initially. I just made this name up. I could have said ABC. It doesn't exist. In order for us to access or create an environmental variable within this computer, we have to inject it. I'm going to show you how to do it with Fish, which is the shell that I'm using here, which is a little bit different than Bash. And most common, you'll see Bash. So I'm going to show you that way first. With Bash, we simply do port 3000 node server.js. And look at that. Server is listening to port 3000. If I change this to 3050, server is listening to 3050. And this isn't limited to port. You'll see in the next couple of videos during production, we can set up something like a database URL. And this database URL can now be dynamic. Maybe we won't know where the database URL will be. In that case, I can simply say database URL equals 123 node server.js, and we get port is not defined because We're not using it here, so let's just revert this back to port 3000 and run that command again. And look at that, server listening to port 123 because that's the database URL. And we can set whatever environmental variables we want. And the importance of them won't really come into play until later on in these videos, but they're really important for things that should be kept secret or dynamic. For example, port. We might not know what port the server that's going to be running our API will be run on. So this way, whoever is running it can just set the port without touching the code base. But also for secrets, for example, API keys that we might not want to have in our code base. We can just launch the app and give maybe API keys or even passwords to log into the database dynamically through the environment so that it's more secure. Let me show you how to do this in Fish. It's a little bit different and you don't need to worry too much about it because it's just specific to Fish. It's kind of a weird kink, but you can do environment database URL. We'll say hello node server.js. And we have server is listening on port hello. Again, this is just specific to Fish, but to demonstrate to you that they're environment variables. The environment decides the variables, and because the environment that this is running on is a Fish shell, I have to use the specific Fish way of declaring it. But the goal is still the same. We're trying to inject these properties and values into Node so that it has access to it. And that's why it's called process.env for environmental variables. And we'll use them in the next couple of videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.